the LaxFactor podcast.
What is up, Lacrosse fans? You're watching episode 132 of the LaxFactor Lacrosse podcast, and today we are going to preview week 1.5, kind of. I think last week was technically that weird week they call week 0 in college lacrosse, so I think this is technically the first week, although who knows. So we're just going to call it week 1.5, and we're just going to guess on the weeks until I see officially what other people are saying so that we follow the right pattern. But we have Friday's game, Denver at Duke. Saturday's game, Towson at UVA. It's not a great matchup because Towson had one of the worst starts ever the year before last year in the COVID-shortened season, but we get to see UVA and what they look like. And then Sunday's game, Denver at UNC, and then Bobby Moe is going to play Duke and things like that. But the main games I want to talk about, Denver at Duke, Towson at UVA, and Denver at UNC. Before I get into it, as always, go to LaxFactor.com. You can support the podcast, get swag. We have T-shirts. We have shorts. I said that out of sequence. And we have, branded T-shirts as well. So you can go to LaxFactor.com. As always, just like, subscribe, and then hit that little notification bell so you're notified when we put out videos. And if you want to listen to the audio version, go to anchor.fm/LaxFactor. But you can find us audio-wise anywhere they have podcasts. Spotify, Apple, Google. You name it, we're there. So to get right into this here, we have number 5 at number 1 Duke, Friday night, our happy hour game, as everybody's calling them. And I mean, overall, the story of this game is Denver's already played, and they played poorly against a team in Utah that played brilliantly. It was a big mismatch. Denver really should have put it on Utah, but Utah came out and played their best game, and Denver came out and really kind of played their worst game. They can't do that against Duke. They won against Utah. They cannot do that against Duke. Denver started really slow like they did against Utah, against UNC last year, and went down 5-0, spotted UNC 5 goals pretty much. They can't do that. They have to come out and start quickly. So that's, because if they play poorly against Duke, Duke is going to put the hurt on them. Historically, since 2014, Duke leads the series 4-3. Duke's won the last 3 meetings. Denver won the 3 meetings prior to that. The largest margin of victory over that span, because I was thinking these were going to be a bunch of 1-goal games, but they really weren't. The largest span was Denver beat Duke by 5, 14-9 in 2017. The closest game over that span, Duke won by a goal in 2019, so that's not bad. Over 7 games, the average margin for the victor was 3 goals. It's 21 goals spread out over 7 games, separated these two teams. So more often than not, it was a 2 to a 4-goal game or so separating these guys. So they always play tough, but there's not a whole lot of just dog fights. I think they did play a 1-goal game in 2019 that Duke won. I think it was 10-9 that year. So keys to this game for Denver. What does Denver have to do to give them a chance to win this game? They need to play fast and aggressive coming out of the gate. A lot of times keys to the game are similar because, you're always trying to not turn the ball over and, stop transition and get up the field in transition. But in this case here, specifically, Denver needs to be aggressive, dodge fast, dodge hard, dodge aggressively to the cage, because they just didn't attack the cage in the first half against Utah. I think they did a little better in the second quarter, but it didn't really translate into points outside of a goal. So I think what Denver really needs to focus on is come out against Duke a little bit more desperate in your dodging to try to just get that extra step, push down the alley and maybe get into the body of your defender a little bit. Do anything they can to just try to get front and center in front of the goal. And then the second key to the game, get quality shots on cage. There was a lot of times where they had what appeared to be scenarios in which they had good shots and they just put cupcakes on the cage or they sailed them. Hannah sailed a couple over the cage. Kotler put a couple of cupcakes on goal. So Denver just has to do a better job of getting good shots on cage, and then defensively, stay home, and more importantly than anything else, play good help defense. One of the things I talked about in the recap for their Utah game was that they slid often and they slid early, almost automatic. And now I'm thinking about it, maybe that was part of the design. They're about to play 2 teams where they have deadly Dodgers, Duke more so, with Mike Sowers. So maybe that was part of their game plan. Let's slide early, let's slide often, so that we're not getting beat and getting caught in half slides, because half slides is where Duke is going to kill you with Mike Sowers popping balls over the top to open step-down shooters, and they have step-down shooters all over the place at the Duke midfield. So defensively, just got to play good and stay home. Duke, Keys to the game for Duke. Take care of the ball, partly just because it's their first game. First game out, you got a bunch of new personnel. Mike Sowers in the mix here. They just got to take care of the ball. Make sure you're watching feeds into your stick. I feel like you may end up seeing when teams are dusty, a good feed goes uncaught or doesn't get caught cleanly because guys' nerves are getting the best of them. So just take care of the ball. Play settled. Take care of the ball. Let the game come to you, and then you'll score points. The other thing I think Duke has to worry about is getting guys comfortable. I think last year I had talked a lot about how that second midfield line looked a lot better, especially early in the season, which is all we really got, than that first midfield line, to the point where that second midfield line actually swapped and became the first midfield line for a couple of games maybe, or I don't remember exactly. I know that I saw that the midfield lines each had different games started, and all of them had games started. So anyway, I think part of that is they're going to have a lot of dudes on the field. They're going to play a lot of people, and when you play a lot of people, it's hard for people to get in a rhythm and to get comfortable. Usually attackmen are able to hit that rhythm. Midfielders will have a harder time, and Duke could go 3 midlines deep at times to just try to get everybody in, get everybody involved in the game, figure out early on who's going to fit where. So I think that that's going to be one of their keys, is making sure guys are comfortable, within that first half, without taking them out of a flow that could prevent them from maybe putting some goals up in that first half. Denver's known quantities, guys that Duke is going to have to look out for, which we kind of talked about him last week, but hey, let's go again. Jungle Jack Hanna, 3 goals and an assist last week versus Utah. Last year versus Duke, 6 goals and a helper in a 15-3 loss at Duke. Another guy, Ethan Walker, 2 goals and an assist last week versus Utah. Last year versus Duke, 2 goals and 3 helpers. So Walker feeding more than he was scoring against Duke last year in that same 15-3 loss. We also have Jackson Morrill. He didn't face Duke last year, but Morrill goes 1-2 last week against Utah. Looked good, especially in that second half where everybody started looking good. His last meeting, and I don't know if this is technically his last meeting with Duke, but this is the most notorious one. 1 assist in the national championship in 2018, a game that EL won, but he only had 1 assist in after tearing it up that season as they're kind of their second best player. So he's going to play big. They're going to watch him. Jack Thompson, goalkeeper for Denver, 58% save percentage against Utah. Last meeting versus Duke was atrocious. 3 saves versus 5 goals against. He split halves with Cole French, who played worse, 3 saves against 10 goals. So Jack Thompson, he played well against Utah last week. He's going to hope to play well against Duke. He's going to have to play well against Duke. He's going to need 12 to 15 saves if Denver's going to have a shot against Duke. That's almost for sure. And then I think another key, because he was disappointing last week, is Alex Stathakis. He's the guy who's taking the faceoffs for Denver right now. He really needs to split him with Duke. He went 7-14 last week against Utah. I expected him to win, well over half. I figured he'd go, 10 of 14 in a game like that. He goes 7 of 14. He needs to do at least that against Duke. His last meeting against Duke, he was 12 of 27, so he was close. He needs to win a couple more faceoffs than that. He can't go under 50% against Duke, I don't think, because Duke's going to put up points. They're going to put up points in bunches, in spurts, so he's going to have to try to limit their possessions. That's going to be important. Duke's known quantities. Mike Sowers, we know about that. Last year, 16 goals, 31 helpers, and just a boatload of points for Princeton. Dyson Williams, he played Denver last year, 3-1. Last season overall, 25-5. The dude's a goal scorer. Owen Caputo, he's one of the dudes on that second midline that played so well. Last year against Denver, he was their leading scorer, 3 goals and 3 helpers. And overall last year, 12-8 for 20 points. So Caputo, one of the guys that anchored that second midline that at some point became the first midline, a very solid midfielder. And you have back also Manown. Manown last year, 3 goals against Denver, 14-4 on the season last year. And then Robertson's back. He was injured in 2020, but he went 4-1 against Denver in 2019 in a 1-goal win. JT Giles Harris, the key for him is going to be don't try to do too much. Denver's probably going to avoid him a little bit, and he just has to make sure he's doing what he can wherever he is on the field in that moment. Top dogs like him tend to play a little bit rough off ball when they try to do too much, so you can kind of take a top dog out of his game by trying to get them moved around, trying to avoid them, get them frustrated, or avoid them to the point where the first real dodge they see is at a key point when they haven't really gotten any type of real warm-up or game flow yet. So just make sure that you do good. Last time against Denver, just 3 ground balls, 2 caused turnovers because people avoid him. So that's big. Mike Adler in cage, I believe that's who we're going to see start for Duke here. St. Joseph's transfer, big deal here because they have the chance to have a goalie that can make 55 to 60% of his saves. Last year, 59% for Adler against Penn last year, 13 goals against, 59% save percentage off 19 saves in a 1-goal loss to Penn. That was their last regular season game. And then the only other tough team St. Joseph's played last year, or real tough team, I should say, he had 12 saves against Penn State in a 19-4 loss, but he gave up 16 goals, made 12 saves. That's not that bad against Penn State in a huge route like that. I think another key for Duke is going to be Jordan Jinder. I don't know who their faceoff guy is going to be. I know they had a transfer in, I think, as well. So last year, Jinder against Denver, 18 to 28. Overall, 59% faceoff percentage last year for Jinder. So he was solid. So I think they did add a transfer to that mix. So they have depth at that spot. So that's going to be key. And then, who knows? Brendan O'Neill, a couple other guys that'll end up factoring as well. Will O'Neill play on attack? Will he come out of the box? Will he do a little bit of both? That will be interesting. Now, my prediction in this game is, actually, I'm going to set the line first. I'm going to try to do lines again. I'm going to be a little bit more reserved this time. I'm going to spot Denver 2.5 goals. So I'm saying Duke at minus 2.5. My predicted score, though, I'm thinking Duke 15 to 11. I think that Duke has been typical. I think that Denver playing a game before Duke isn't going to help them as much as you would think. I think Duke's going to maybe have a hard time early, pick it up somewhere between the second and third quarter, and then finish off 15-11. That's my predicted score. I think both teams are going to have some crap moments overall in the first half, but I think that Duke ends up winning out once they get settled, find their voice, so to speak, and I think that in the end that's going to help Duke out. So 15-11, that's my prediction. Don't take that to the bank because, as you all know, I suck really bad at predictions. Let me get a drink. All right. Next game up, Towson at number 6, Virginia. As I said, this should technically be a rout. Towson last year, one of the worst starts they've ever had in the program history. I think they started 0-6. I talked about how they could have gone 0-9. I still say, though, I think they were one of the best 0-6 teams to ever play the game. I think they just had a bad run with the schedule, and they were down a little bit. But even UVA was coming off a rough start last year. They didn't start hot like some people had thought they were going to. So, Virginia comes into this a heavy favorite. Historically, they haven't played, not since I could find, and I wasn't going back past 2014 where Inside Lacrosse had the games up. Towson keys to the game, and this is going to be really generic here. Take care of the ball. UVA is going to be playing aggressive on defense, and if Towson can't take care of the ball, it's going to hurt them in the next area that they need to take care of, which is limiting UVA's transition. Keep Ian Laviano away from those celebrations where he's scoring goals in transition or someone else's and he's doing spins in the air, jumping on piles and crap. Don't let Ian Laviano be the spark plug by burning you in transition. Take care of the rock. That will limit the transition plays that Virginia gets a shot at. But they also just need to try to get their butts back on defense. If UVA is going to run one way or another with a guy like Connors at LSM and their defense is just aggressive, forces turnovers. So they need to limit transition and take care of the ball. And those things are kind of one and the same. Virginia's keys to the game. Play fast and loose. UVA just has to come out and play their game. I think last year they played a little tight. I think they need to come out, play fast, play aggressive. They're at their best when they're playing, they're getting transition looks, they're pushing tempo, running slow breaks and hitting trailing midfielders and things like that. I'll talk about UNC. They're really good at that as well. But they just need to take advantage of the matchups as they get them before teams get settled in their defense and then go. And Matt Moore will handle some of that. Now, Towson's known quantities, not as many as UVA has overall, but Brody McLean's back. I believe he's a graduate student now. He was 9-3 last year, 39-6 in 2019, back when they had Brendan Sunday and a bunch of other guys on offense that could generate. He needs help from dudes like Austin Stewart. Stewart, 1 goal and 8 assists last year. So, McLean's a guy who needs someone to carry, dodge, get separation, feed him the ball. They can do it within the system, but someone beating somebody is key for a guy like McLean. So if he's going to have success, a guy like Stewart, some of the other attacking middies need to as well. Kobe Smith, obviously, kid's a monster. He needs to be disruptive, but just like I said about JT Giles Harris for Duke in the Denver game, he also needs to not try to do too much. Don't get caught in that trap of we're avoiding you, you're getting bored, you're mad that we're losing, and now you're going to try to do much and make it worse. He needs to stay home, handle his business where he is in the field, lead that team, and get better with that defense as they go. His stats, though, are crazy. Last year, 2 goals, 3 assists with a long pole, 11 ground balls, 3 caused turnovers. And in 2019, he was 6 goals, 4 helpers, 30 ground balls, and 20 caused turnovers. He'll have a hard time getting to 20 caused turnovers again in his career because people are going to avoid him like AIDS in the 1980s. Virginia's known quantities, and now we've got a lot of these here. Matt Moore, last year, 19 and 16, career 84 goals, 74 dishes. UVA's best all-around player, one of the best in the country. So he needs to be big, and he will most likely be big. I think he was their leading scorer last year, now that I think about it. In 19 and 16, he's a true triple threat. Dude can dodge, very sneaky dodger because he's not a shifty, quick dude. He just beats dudes. He's got a really quick first step. It almost seems like smooth strides get him to the cage. So he's not shifty. He's sneakily quick-footed and gets steps on dudes. And then he just goes to the rack. Great at wrapping around from behind, coming up a side. And then he can step down as well. If he's playing off ball and someone else is drawing some eyes and he's on the backside, he can snipe as well with the best of them. Ian Laviano, their spark plug. 11-3 last year, 99 goals and 23 assists over his career so far. Great finisher, deadly in transition. Not going to burn you with the dodge, but he is truly a utility off-ball player. He's not necessarily going to snipe from outside either. He's a cutter, a duck under, pick and slip kind of guy. So watch out for Laviano, but he will snipe shit on fast breaks from the corner up there on the right side off the wing. So he's deadly. Dox Aitken, great news for UVA that Dox Aitken's coming back. 9-1 last year, got kind of a slow start, but 121 goals and 32 helpers over his career. Just a great all-around midfielder, great between the boxes. He's not Ryan Conrad between the boxes, but he is much better than your average midfielder, just overall being on the field in every situation, far more capable than most. So he's big. Peyton Cormier, who really benefited from playing with Dox last year. He was their leading scoring midfielder, 12 and 7, played great alongside Aitken, and I presume he'd do so again. I don't think you're going to see him on attack, but you might. I think you might see Schellenberger down on attack and Cormier staying at midfield because he really did. He looked good on the midfield for UVA last year. Defender Kyle Kology, I think it's Kology. Last year, 12 caused turnovers, 16 ground balls. He benefits because teams can't keep avoiding Connors wherever he's roaming around the field beating on people. So Kology ends up getting to beat on someone and take the ball away from someone almost every game. 6'4", 225-pound fellow. Big part of this kind of fly all over the field and beat people up defense. Connors, as we said, 28 ground balls, 10 caused turnovers, 3 goals, and a dish. Last year in the shortened season, over his career, 193 ground balls, 58 caused turnovers, 16 goals, and 9 assists. One of the best LSMs in the country, one of the best dudes carrying a pole in the country, can take the ball away, can help on defense, can slash legally and get away with it, which is very important, and gets upfield with the best of them. So that's important. And then another key for UVA, and this is going to be all year, is Alex Rode. The kid's got a national championship under his belt. The year after winning a natty, he ended up getting benched for a couple of games, or at least one game. Then he came back and played insanely well again, or played better anyway. So anyway, he got his starting position back. He wins a natty. Like, how many goalies that have won a national championship end up taking as much crap as I think Rode has? But at this point, man, he is a seasoned vet. He was 55% last year, 79 saves, average 9 goals against at a time. If he can stick in that area, UVA is going to do well. If he can get himself up to 57 to 60%, UVA is going to be looking at 2 or 3 in the ACC. Just that small change in his save percentage could help them a great deal. My prediction in this one, I'm setting the line at this one at UVA -6.5, so I'm spotting Towson 6.5 goals. My predicted score, if it goes well and it goes according to plan, I'm thinking UVA 16-6. I think it might end up being a little closer early than you would think, just because teams are going to be sloppy but Towson's going to be sloppy as well, and UVA is just loaded all over the field. So I'm going with 16-6 for this one, but I'm only spotting Towson for this 6.5 points. So, I mean, yeah, I think that's good. I think that's better. That's more reasonable. Everything in my being was telling me to spot Towson 9-10 goals, but that never works out for me. So I'm trying to be measured in my line setting here this week. And I only do this for fun. Like I said, I'm just trying to see how close I can get these things. All right. The next game, and this is the one I might be the most excited for. I think I'm most excited for Friday's game because it's sooner and it's a Friday night. But Sunday's game, number 5, Denver at number 4, North Carolina. Denver's just killing it. They're playing their third game in, 8 days at this point? And then 2 of those games are going to be against top 4 teams, and number 4 Carolina and number 1 Duke. So that's crazy. So Denver's going to be tired, but they ought to start kind of hitting a stride at this point. They're going to, know who they are offensively at this point. So I think that by that point, it'll help them. Historically, Denver holds a 4-3 advantage over their last 7 meetings against UNC. So that's pretty big. Keys to the game for Denver. And once again, don't start slow against UNC like they did last year. Last year, they were down, I think, 5-0, 6-1 at one point, even after they chipped back. And they barely saw the ball in that stretch. Every time UNC came down the field, every other time they scored, Denver would get the ball in their end, take a bad shot, turn the ball over. They can't do that. Just like we said, they can't do that against Duke. You can't do that against good teams, and Denver tends to do that over the last couple of seasons. So they got to start quick. Don't play like dirt in the first quarter, first half, heaven forbid. Get out there and play ball right away. Now, I didn't mention Denver trying to control Sowers or anyone specific on Duke because you're not going to control Sowers. You just have to play all around good D and then try to outscore Duke overall. I think against UNC, I think if you limit Gray and Solomon's touches a little bit, and you could do that through maybe selective shutoffs as the ball's getting moved around. Maybe you just play Gray really tough off ball because he tends to do a lot of damage off ball as he lets the game come to him, a very patient player. Solomon 13-16 last year, so he's kind of a 50-50 threat. So I think those 2 are going to hurt them the most, but I think Denver, if they give them a little bit extra attention, try to limit their touches where they can, they may be able to take UNC out of their game a little bit. We'll see what happens there. And then limit transition, partly because no one's better at getting into a slow break situation, letting middies fill in on the field in the sub situations, and then finding open mids out top for step down shots. So they really have to limit that transition, get back on defense, spot up, find a man, match up, make sure everybody's good. Don't let UNC get those easy step down shots out of the midfielders because it will kill them. And then UNC's keys to the game, because it's UNC's first game at that point and Denver's third. UNC, just limit your turnovers. Let the game come to you. Don't try to do too much. Last year against Denver, they only turned the ball over 14 times, which isn't bad against a good, solid defensive team like Denver. So limit the turnovers, and especially because it's your first outing. And then get better goalie play. Johnson, if he plays like he did in his freshman season, giddy up. If he plays like he did in 2020, that might be what Denver needs to start getting comfortable, start seeing some goals hit the back of that net. And that could open them up a little bit offensively, and UNC does not want to let that happen. They don't want to give Denver any confidence. Known quantities for Denver, we already talked about them. You already know them. All the same guys. They all have to factor. They all have to factor heavily. Known quantities for UNC, and once again, this is a long list. We have Chris Gray, 27-21 last year over 7 games, one of the best in the country across all facets of the game. True triple threat, but does a lot of damage off ball. Very patient, insanely high lacrosse IQ, and a very capable finisher in all sorts of weird ways. Again, not that crazy lighten the lamp at 105-mile-an-hour shot, just a accurate shot, puts the ball where it needs to be. He's one of those dudes who's just good at getting balls past goalkeepers. So Gray's going to do damage. They got to pay extra special attention to him. Nicky Solomon last year against Denver, 2 goals in the game. Last season, 13-16 overall. He became a true 50-50 triple threat as well. Guy can finish, feed, really great at getting separation. Just a quick dude, great dodger. Tanner Cook, last meeting, 3 assists against Denver. Last season, 20-7. Big boy, finds matchups, bulls people, and one of those dudes that loves letting the dudes draw heads, and then just, he'll get a ball out top from a guy behind or something like that, and will step down and he will rip 100-mile-an-hour cannon on you. Justin Anderson, he went 5-2 against Denver last year. He was huge in that game. 15-7 overall last season. Another do everything kind of guy coming out of the midfield for UNC. And then on defense, Will Bowen. Not huge stats against Denver. I saw that he took a shot in that Denver game. I watched it the other day. 2 ground balls caused turnover in their last meeting. On the season, though, 16 ground balls, 8 caused turnovers in 7 starts. Kid's a junior from a school perspective, and actually is going to graduate. So he's technically going to graduate and is a senior from a school perspective, but he is still only a freshman from an eligibility standpoint because of an injury his freshman year. COVID season his sophomore year, his redshirt freshman year. So now he's still a freshman from an eligibility standpoint, but he's going to be a graduate student at, I think Georgetown is where he picked. So he needs to just play good. They're going to avoid him a little bit, I think, overall, but they not enough. So he's going to end up guarding someone who's really solid that's going to want to go to the goal. He has to play good. I predict they'll probably put him on Jackson Morrill, would be my best guess. And then in cage, it's going to be important here that Caton Johnson plays tough. 9 saves, 13 goals against last year against Denver, 41%. He still won the goalie battle because Thompson played terrible, as well as whoever else played goalie for Denver last year against UNC. But Caton Johnson needs to be better. Last year, 46.2%. Everyone was really thinking that kid was going to get himself above 50% his sophomore year. And UNC, they did not play. They played kind of a crackerjack schedule. They played Hopkins and Denver, tough games, but then they played Colgate, Mercer, Lafayette, Furman, and Bryant. He needs to be better. For him to have a 46.2% save percentage before he even got into ACC play last year, he was going to be probably end up being below 45% if he kept on at that pace, and that's not going to be good enough playing in the ACC if you're a goalkeeper who had aspirations of being an All-American. My prediction in this one, I'm going to set the line for this one. I'm going to spot Denver 2 goals, so we're going to go UNC at -2, and my predicted score, UNC 17 and Denver 14. I think that Denver is going to finally put some points up. UNC, of course, is going to put points up. And, North Carolina, they present Denver with similar problems to Duke, but because their offensive depth is insane, but they don't have that crazy Mike Sowers Dodger. So I think that's going to be where Denver, if they look good on defense against Utah. They just literally could do nothing right on the offensive side of the ball. So as long as they can play like that and play good help D, not get beat by Dodgers too much, giddy up. They're going to be pretty good. We have more games to rip through real quick. And actually, I'm just going to touch on these and tell you who's playing, and then we'll cover these games a little bit more in Saturday morning's live stream at 10 a.m. This weekend. So if I go down here, we've got so all this kicks off with Duke Denver at 3 p.m., the happy hour game on Friday of this week, Friday, February 5th. And then we have Saturday games. We have Bellarmine hosting Utah, 12 o'clock. We have Mercer hosting Lenoir Rhine at 4 o'clock. And then the UVA Towson game is at 4 o'clock on Saturday. And then Sunday, we have North Carolina, Denver at 11 a.m. that morning, Sunday morning. And then we have Duke and Robert Morris at 4 p.m. It looks like the North Carolina-Denver game is going to be on ESPNU. I think the Duke-Denver game is going to be on the ACC network, maybe only the app. I'm not sure. And then I think the UVA Towson game is also going to be on the ACC network. So that's it, guys. We've got a bunch of lacrosse to watch this weekend. I don't really have anything else to say because I think I've already been talking a really long time. We have the Saturday morning 10 a.m. live stream where we'll talk about all these games again, but I will go a little bit deeper into Mercer, Lenoir Rhine, as well as the Bellarmine game and the Duke Robert Morris game. We'll talk about the games I didn't talk about a little bit on Saturday. We'll field questions from all of you guys. We had a killer live stream last week, and we had, I think at one point, 64 people was the max watching. I might be wrong. It might have only been 54 people at one point, but before it even ended, we had 700 views over the course of the live stream that morning. We ended up going from about 10 a.m. to about 11. So probably try to give myself a little bit more time. before the UNC game starts at 11 a.m. So we'll probably go from about 10 a.m. to about 10:45 or so Saturday morning, 10 a.m. This Saturday morning, 10 a.m. live stream, youtube.com/LaxFactor. As always, be sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. You can go to LaxFactor.com, support us that way, get some swag. Share this video with everybody that you know. If you like the audio version, go to anchor.fm/LaxFactor or anywhere where you get podcasts. If you are listening and you want to listen or watch the video version, come to youtube.com/LaxFactor. And that is it. I will be back Saturday morning, 10 a.m., and then again Sunday morning with the recaps from the weekend's games. And that is it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And Hoost is out.